To get started with our image trace, we want to find some reference art that we're going to use for the trace. So we'll go to Google and start looking for something. I'm going to put in the Chattanooga Public Library. And let's go up to Images. And now when I'm looking at images, something like a photograph is going to give us way too much detail or way too many lines to be useful for things like vinyl cutting or on the laser cutter. So we want to look for things that are more like graphics, logos. So if we type in logo, then we can narrow it down. And let's take this one. And I'm going to go over here and right click, copy image. And now we'll go into Illustrator and we're going to create a new image, and we won't worry about the size yet. I have some of my recent. If you don't, we can just go to Web and do Common. We'll double click on that. And I'm going to close all my windows. And actually, just so we're working on the same layout, go up to Window. Under Workspace, I'm going to switch to Web, and that's just because that's the one I'm used to. It's no better or worse than any of the other ones. And now, for whatever reason, in Illustrator, we can't right-click to paste. So we'll go ahead and paste from Edit, Paste. And so now we've got our image in Illustrator ready to trace. And you can see that there's image trace in a couple different places, but if we use these shortcuts for image trace, we're not going to get very many options. So I want to just ignore this, pretend like it's not there. We're always going to use the image trace under Window, Image Trace. We can move this over to the side by dragging the gray bar. For vinyl and laser, we're going to use the black and white image trace. And that's not because our image started off black and white. Obviously, it's not. It's because we need color and not color. We kind of need two tones. So if we do the image trace, we're going to see that right now it's all black. So we're going to come down to this threshold slider. And if we drag this to the right and let go, we'll see that nothing has happened because it's filled it in completely black. And if we drag it to the left and let go, then we can start to see our image take shape. So we're going to move this around just until we get a pretty decent trace. And so we can see over here, we're losing a little bit of this in order to fill in the letters. So I'm going to move that back to the left a little bit. And then I also need to kind of focus on some detail. So I'm going to use Control plus to zoom in and pick one of these letters, maybe this A that I kind of want to fine tune. And that's where we lose it. So that's about as far as we can go on here. Now, if we wanted to continue to try to get some better detail out of this, under Threshold, we have the Advanced tab. And so now we can take our paths a little bit higher. We'll go to 75%. And so that's starting to smooth things out if I just drag it all the way up. And then we're seeing that that trace actually looks pretty good. There's still a couple little parts here. And we can play with the number of corners, take that all the way up, see what it looks like, take that all the way down and see what it does. And so that was good about halfway. Smooth it out a little bit. And then the noise, not really sure what that's going to do, so we'll just take it all the way up and test. We lost some things. And now let's take it all the way down. And so that didn't really affect it too much. And another setting that we almost always want to use if we can is this ignore white. So right now it's creating lines for everything that's white and everything that's black. And the places where the white and black are touching, we're going to have a double set of lines. So that's something that on the vinyl plotter, you might end up seeing your vinyl get shredded while it's cutting, or on the laser cutter, you would see it cut multiple times for every one pass. So to make that a little bit more predictable, we're going to go under our options and select ignore white. Before we do that, let's take a look at the paths. 111, when we hit ignore white, takes it down to 56, so about half. And right now we have our preview on, so we can see the results. But when we have our preview on, you see we don't get our trace. Instead of even worrying about the trace, we usually go up to the top here and then click expand. And now we can see these blue lines show up, and that lets us know that we have our paths that are ready for cutting. I'm going to close this image trace panel. And to make this a little bit easier to visualize, I'm going to zoom out, Control negative. And you could also use the zoom down here if that's easier. And now I want to click anywhere in the empty space to deselect. And as we click on things, we see that blue line comes back. So let's deselect. Then we're going to go up to View, Outline. And now we can see all the lines that the machine, whether it's the vinyl or laser, will follow. And so we have something like this outside line, which if we're doing this where we would peel out the white, that outside box is going to keep all the artwork intact for us. But if we just wanted the inside elements, then we don't need that box. In fact, it would take more vinyl. So to make it a little bit more efficient to cut, we're going to select it. And here are our two selection tools. With the main selection tool, if I click on that outside box, I don't see anything happening. Oh, click on the inside there, and that selects everything. But I just want that outside box. So I'm going to click to deselect, switch over to the direct selection tool, and now I can click just that outside box. And a lot of times what's going to be easier than trying to directly click on really tiny lines, I'm just going to click and hold to do a box selection, and I don't have to be very accurate with this. And now with just that outside box selected, I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard. And I see that I have still one little segment left. So I'm going to hit delete again. And now we have just the lines that we want to send to the cutter.